Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the leader of the coup in Burkina Faso, has been severing the country's ties to the West and implementing drastic reforms for more than a year. He is working to preserve Burkina Faso's natural resources as well as its previously violated sovereignty. He is not popular in the West, particularly in France, because he is strengthening and gaining true independence for his nation. He is not a good leader as a result. He perceived an attempt at several coups directed on him. This September, the first coup attempt came to pass. He witnessed another coup not too long after this one failed, and those responsible were taken into custody. But one thing is for sure, these coup efforts are being supported by a number of unseen hands. Who may be planning these coup efforts to remove him from office? What is his potential future, and why is he being ignored? What do these recent coups indicate about current events, and what lies ahead for Burkina Faso? Let's investigate that. The military administration of Burkina Faso declared on Wednesday that it had successfully prevented a coup attempt and that those involved in the plan to destabilize the nation were being vigorously pursued by its intelligence and security services. In a statement, the junta acknowledged the coup attempt, but gave no further information about the event. Officers were among the dead, according to junta spokesman Rim Talba Jean-Emmanuel Ouedraogo. The junta declared that the coup attempt was a failure and that those connected to the attempted coup had been detained. Searches are being conducted to identify the remaining individuals. Citing elected administration's inability to deliver on their pledges, the military has taken control of Burkina Faso, adding another nation to its growing list of West African nations where it has done so. Lieutenant Col was overthrown by the current junta in September 2022, when they took over. The military government of Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba, which 8 months previously had pulled off a coup d'état to depose President Rochemarc Kabore, a duly elected figure. The spokesperson for the junta, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, was named as the interim president. Ouedraogo affirmed that there is an ongoing investigation into the attempted coup and that the perpetrators intended to destabilize Burkina Faso. Protesters in the capital, Ouagadougou, voiced their support for the transitional administration, prompting the news of the aborted coup. In a statement, the junta applauded the defense and security forces for their actions in thwarting the coup and praised the people for their dedication to safeguarding the country. It is important to remember that the coup did not occur as planned and was discovered before the participating soldiers could carry it out. The military junta was promptly informed by the intelligence agency about the potential coup. It seems that several internal and external factions do not approve of the transitional government led by Captain Ibrahim Traoré. That's why they are staging a coup against Captain Ibrahim by utilizing the disillusioned soldiers. A national assembly made up of army officers, representatives of civil society, traditional leaders, and the armed forces approved the constitution that the transitional government is operating under, as well as clergymen. By July 2024, the junta wants to hold elections to bring democracy back to Burkina Faso. 4 officers, 3 of whom were in control of special forces groups, were detained in Ouagadougou on September 27th, suspected of organizing a coup against the transitional government of Burkina Faso. You see, they were the leaders of special forces, not just regular soldiers, which was capable of pulling off a successful coup. If the coup attempt had not been discovered sooner, one can only speculate as to what these special unit heads and their units would have done. 2 days prior to the arrests, the magazine Jeune Afrique had been suspended for covering army-related unrest. The transitional government of Burkina Faso declared on Wednesday that they had effectively prevented a coup. The takeover was successful. A confirmed coup attempt that happened the day before. According to a government statement, those engaged in this attempt to topple the nation had been found, and others were being sought out. Furthermore, according to a statement released by the military court in Ouagadougou, 4 officers have been arrested, and 2 are still at large. They are all believed to be involved in a scheme to undermine national security. This came after the military regime in Burkina Faso said that security and intelligence services had thwarted a coup attempt. Later, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the head of the junta, reaffirmed his dedication to the emancipation of the nation. He underlined that despite obstacles, he was determined to see the transition through to a successful end, and other barriers. It's important for you to be aware that this is his second attempted coup in as many months. This demonstrates that the West does not approve of whatsoever he is doing. Plans were being made to topple him because he was concentrating on his nation and people rather than the interests of Western politicians or corporations. This news is reported differently in Western media. The media is reporting on the military junta's claims regarding the attempted coup rather than the actual event, and nobody else is certain if this is true or not. Does the world believe Burkina Faso is doing so intentionally? It is common knowledge that France is the nation that desires Ibrahim Traoré to leave Burkina Faso. Because of this, the Western media tries to avoid discussing France whenever there is news of a coup attempt. The military rulers of Burkina Faso had inked agreements for mutual defense with the juntas in Mali and Nigeria earlier the same month. The military chiefs signed the Tri-Border Pact, has emerged as the epicenter of the unrest that began in 2012 in neighboring Mali and has now expanded throughout the parched Sahel area south of the Sahara Desert. There were later developments about the coup attempt. The authorities said that the accused culprits intended to attack Republican institutions and bring about instability in the nation. Therefore, the goal of this coup was to destroy the nation rather than to depose Ibrahim Traoré right away. To date, the government has not provided a conclusive response. But to ensure his collapse, in the event that Burkina Faso descended into anarchy and civil conflict, Western nations would also have the ideal justification to meddle in the country. The ultimate intention from the outset would have been for France to have the authority to select Burkina Faso's president. However, things did not go as expected. The military prosecutor of the nation had earlier in the same month declared the arrest and filing of charges against 3 soldiers who were allegedly planning an attack on the ruling junta. These troops, some of whom had previously served in intelligence, were reportedly scoping out the homes of influential junta members with the intention of causing instability during the transitional period leading up to the scheduled elections. As it happens, Burkina Faso had its first coup in January 2022. A coup d'état occurred in Burkina Faso on January 23, 2022, with gunfire and chaos in the country's capital, Ouagadougou. Gunshots were heard close to the presidential mansion and several military facilities in the city as the events developed. During this turbulent time, soldiers were thought to have taken control of the military base in the city. In spite of these advancements, the authorities first denied that a coup had taken place in the nation. But within a few hours, word spread that the military had taken President Rochmark Christian Kabore into custody in the capital at a military camp. The military formally declared on television on January 24, 2022, that Kabore had been removed from office as president. The military proclaimed the dissolution of the administration and parliament after making this pronouncement, and the constitution. Military officer Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba took the lead in these events and planned the coup d'état. President Kabore's Twitter account issued a statement during the developing crisis, pleading for communication and asking the soldiers to surrender their weapons. Nevertheless, it did not establish if he was being held at the time. It was simultaneously claimed that soldiers had encircled RTB, the state news channel, and that President Kabore had been taken into custody, had been detained alongside other government representatives. Important individuals, such as President Kabore and the Leader of Parliament, were reportedly in the hands of the military, according to 2 security officials. Due to the worsening security conditions brought on by the insurgency's increasing intensity, the Patriotic Movement for Safeguarding and Restoration, headed by military captain Sidsor Kader Ouedraogo, claimed credit for overthrowing Kabore's administration. and the president's failure to control the situation. With the goal of reaching a consensus that would satisfy all parties, the MPSR underlined its dedication to setting a date for fresh elections. For more videos about Black history, culture, civilization, and identity, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Now let's go on. Following the coup, the new junta administration suspended the parliament, the cabinet, and the constitution. There were locked federal borders, and a national curfew was put in place. The junta leadership promised to hold new elections in a way that would satisfy all political factions. In his handwritten resignation letter, which was also made public, President Kaboré stated that he was stepping down for the good of the country. In response to the coup, Burkina Faso was suspended by the African Union and ECOWAS, reflecting global disapproval. But afterwards, the constitution was reinstated by the military dictatorship, and Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba was named president in interim. But still, his reign was doomed to fail within the following 8 months. In the nation's second coup in less than a year, President Paul-Henri Damiba of Burkina Faso, who led the military, was overthrown on September 30th, 2022. After Army Captain Ibrahim Traoré took charge, the interim government was dissolved, and the constitution was put on hold. The 34-year-old Traoré declared that Damiba's incapacity to handle the armed rebellion that had intensified in Burkina Faso had led to a group of officers deciding to remove him from office within the previous 9 months. After that, Damiba left his post and ran away to nearby Togo. Officers who had backed the January coup were increasingly dissatisfied with Damiba's leadership because they felt he neglected the war against insurgents in favor of personal objectives. The public's disenchantment with Damiba was compounded by the fact that most of the officers were young and serving in the front lines. The unhappy group, led by Captain Ibrahim Traoré, devised plans for their own coup. Traoré was the leader of a military unit in the northern Burkina Faso town of Kaya. It is unclear the exact unit he oversaw, but according to some accounts, he was in charge of the Kaya-based Cobra Special Forces. Along with their complaints about the military government's inadequate response to insurgents, the Cobra troops were also irritated by pay delays and the detention of their former chief commander, Emmanuel Zongrana, by Kaboré's administration, both of which Damiba had neglected to resolve. Things became worse when insurgents assaulted a convoy carrying supplies to Djibo, killing 11 Burkinabe soldiers and capturing 50 civilians. This incident may have led to Damiba's eventual ouster by further undermining popular trust in his leadership. The coup was also brought about by Turkey's and Russia's attempts to increase their sway over the Sahel. These operations involved the Wagner Group, which was headed by Yevgeny Prigozhin, a longtime close confidant of Russian President Vladimir Putin. An increasing dissatisfaction with France was observed, the primary supporter of Sahelian nations in their conflict with terrorists, which also includes Burkina Faso. Some in Burkina Faso wanted to replace France with Russia, and Prigozhin used troll farms to try and incite anti-French sentiment in the Sahel. Damiba had, though, made the decision not to replace France with any foreign allies. Throughout the capital city of Ouagadougou, there were explosions and a lot of gunfire during the coup, especially close to the military and presidential buildings. Chief of the junta. Blockades were erected in the city center by masked soldiers, mostly from the Cobra Squad. There were fights at Damiba's primary camp, Camp Babassi, and there were reports of gunshots at Koshiam Palace. The army was experiencing an internal crisis, which was admitted by state TV, and negotiations were in progress, according to the interim government. Later, Captain Traoré declared that his squad had decided to remove Damiba due to his incapacity to deal with the growing insurgency. His curfew was enforced, blocked borders, halted civil society and political activity, and suspended the constitution. Traoré disbanded the Legislative Assembly and the administration, announcing himself as the new leader of the patriotic movement for protection and restoration. At first, Damiba's whereabouts were unknown. However, he was then charged, a claim he refuted, with trying to escape to the French military installation at Camp Camboyan-San in order to launch a counter-coup. After religious and community leaders negotiate between Traoré and Damiba, Damiba resigned and was granted an exile in Togo in exchange for certain promises. The French army formally stopped operations in Burkina Faso after the junta asked that they leave the nation within a month. In addition, the junta ended its long-standing military cooperation with France. This appeared to be the beginning of a new age. Captain Ibrahim Traoré drastically altered Burkina Faso's foreign policy toward France within months of taking office. France could not believe that he had sworn to cut Burkina Faso off from its territory. However, the people of Burkina Faso embraced the coup. It demonstrated that even the populace desired France's abolition, and Ibrahim Traoré had presented this chance. France was worried that Burkina Faso would become unexploitable due to his prolonged rule. Any manner. As of right now, Ibrahim Traoré is the youngest president of Burkina Faso in history. Traoré, who was 7 years Damiba's junior and ranked lower in the military hierarchy, attained the rank of Capitaine, which is English for captain, at the age of 34. In the military hierarchy, there are 3 positions that are higher than captain: lieutenant colonel, commander, and commandant, and colonel, which were likewise taken from the French military hierarchy because of Burkina Faso's colonial past. Although many in military circles viewed Traoré's rise to the president as spectacular, it was a predictable development. In 2014, Traoré made a noteworthy advancement when he was sent to Mali as part of the United Nations Peacekeeping Mission Program, or MINUSMA. Traoré was a 26-year-old UN member at the time of this deployment, showed courage and successfully repelled a sophisticated attack in northern Timbuktu by Islamic radicals, an unidentified source said. Traoré demonstrated traits of a strong leader, including tenacity, determination, and a close bond with subordinates, while serving as a lieutenant. He was a fantastic leader in addition to his job in Mali. He led brilliantly in Mali. Traoré was promoted to captain in 2020 for his significant contributions to Burkina Faso's counterinsurgency effort from 2019 to 2022. Traoré stressed that the circumstances left him with no alternative, but he conceded that his age would raise issues about his preparedness for the presidency after the coup against Damiba's government in September 2022. In July 2023, he saw a rise in international prominence when, as part of the Russia-Africa summit, he met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in St. Petersburg, Russia, along with 16 other heads of state from Africa. Burkina Faso's current president, Ibrahim Traoré, has left his imprint on the international scene with his distinct manner and powerful speeches. At little over 6 feet, Traoré's military battle uniform, complete with tactical gloves and a red beret, was a first that distinguished him from the other presidents who wore their usual pricey suits to the Russia-Africa summit. His physical appearance attracted a lot of attention, particularly when he posed for a picture with Russian President Vladimir Putin. But Traoré's real contribution to the conference, which took place on July 27th and 28th, was his speech. He attacked African heads of state in his speech for siding with imperialists and accepting aid without addressing the underlying problems their countries faced. Traoré urged African countries to be self-sufficient in terms of food supply, stressing that their leaders should put feeding their people before depending on outside help. His remarks were in line with those of Thomas Sankara, the renowned leader who, quote, also gained power in Burkina Faso through a coup. Ibrahim Traoré is not viewed as an ally by the West because he has previously demonstrated a preference for China and Russia over the West and France. The West has a tendency to exclusively select and replace presidents who sign legislation that suit its interests without any opposition. France is more interested in replacing Ibrahim Traoré since he is adamant about Burkina Faso, and even Africa, becoming independent and powerful once more. This is the reason Ibrahim Traoré is the target of coup attempts. Had Ibrahim Traoré specified a date for elections, France might have held off. It was previously announced that Burkina Faso would hold elections in July 2024 in order to facilitate a peaceful transfer of power. Ibrahim Traoré, though, subsequently stated that the focus is not on the elections. First and foremost, he wants to get Burkina Faso back on track, but no one knows how long that will take. In the past, France would have felt comfortable designating a puppet as president in the approaching Burkina Faso elections. Ibrahim Traoré is changing dramatically every day and there is no set election date. Therefore, the only choice left is to replace him. However, since the 2 coup attempts have failed, it appears that any nation wanting to remove Captain Ibrahim Traoré from office no longer has control over the game. How do you feel? Is it possible for Captain Ibrahim Traoré to eliminate everyone who is plotting against him? Will he take any action to make sure France doesn't witness any more coups? Share your thoughts with us regarding France's involvement in this. Would you like to see more videos similar to this one? Click the bell icon next to it and subscribe to our channel if the answer is yes. We've made the decision to deliver videos on a topic that is rarely discussed: the history, culture, and proof of how magnificent Black people have been. I appreciate you viewing, and be sure to tune in for the next one.